Mission Minute News. I'm Dominican Sister Jean Harris. First, the headlines. Pope supports persons with disabilities. Vivat International represented at COP26. Indonesian horticultural program flourishes. Protesters reverse military coup in Sudan. Much-loved psychotherapist honored. The cause continues. And Borderless Week number 3. Pope supports persons with disabilities. Pope Francis' message for the UN International Day of Persons with Disabilities last Friday, December 3rd, declared that the Church is truly their home, saying the Church is a community of imperfect people. The UN General Assembly first proclaimed the annual observance in 1992 to promote the rights and well-being of persons with disabilities in all spheres of society and development, and to increase awareness of the situation of persons with disabilities in every aspect of political, social, economic, and cultural life. The Pope's theme was, "You are my friends." He said, "We are called to be friends of Jesus," adding that this can serve as the spiritual key to accepting the limitations that all of us have, and thus to be at peace with them. This in turn can lead to a joy that fills hearts and lives. The Church is truly your home, the Pope assures all people with disabilities. We, all of us together, are Church because Jesus chose to be our friend. Everyone has a part to play. No one is a mere extra. Hence, each of you, he says, is also called to make his or her own contribution to the synodal journey. Unfortunately, many people with disabilities are treated as foreign bodies in society. They can feel that they only exist without belonging, without fully participating. Discrimination, Francis notes, continues to be all too present at various levels of society. It feeds on prejudice, ignorance, and a culture that finds it hard to appreciate the inestimable value of each person. In the Church, the Pontiff says, the worst form of discrimination is the lack of spiritual care, which is sometimes experienced in the form of denying access to the sacraments. Jesus does not call us servants, but friends, confidants, worthy of knowing all that he has received from the Father. Pope Francis urged each and every disabled person to pray, assuring them that the Lord listens attentively to the prayers of those who trust in him. Prayer is a mission accessible to everyone. And I would like to entrust that mission in a particular way to you. There is no one so frail that he or she cannot pray, worship the Lord, give glory to his holy name, and intercede for the salvation of the world. According to the UN, over 1 billion people in the world, 1 in 7, have some form of disability. Of these, more than 100 million are children, who are almost 4 times likelier to experience violence than non-disabled children. Vivat International represented at COP26. Sister Ida Harand, SSPS, Father Alberto Parisi, MCC, and Father Liam Dunn, SVD, participated in the recently concluded COP26 summit in Glasgow as representatives of Vivat International, an NGO working for dignity and human rights through advocacy, comprised of 12 missionary congregations of religious women and men, founded by Divine Word missionaries and Holy Spirit missionary sisters. The delegation shares their insights and observations with us. It was a wonderful experience to see distinguished people and people with tremendous ability, young persons, particularly women, all speaking out with courage, knowledge, and inspiration. During the first days of the conference, many countries announced commitment to climate justice. Over 130 countries want destruction of forests stopped by 2030. Over 100 countries committed to significantly reducing emissions of climate-damaging methane. An alliance was formed to phase out coal between 2030 and 2040. And 45 countries pledged to make their agriculture climate-friendly. We were touched by the experiences of the civil society groups, as sadly they are not feeling as happy as they would like. Big business has limited their aspirations, so there is still much work to be done at grassroots levels. Active participation has been very difficult. NGOs have felt frustrated and at times angry. We came to see the importance of networking and collaboration and the need to belong to a recognized constituency to have access to spaces and processes, even to get information, and above all, to make our own humble contributions. The biggest delegation was the fossil fuel lobbyists. Even though there are many delegates from the global South, industry and party members of the global North have the power. On the positive side, however, we noticed that Southern people speak loudly as they fight for justice, for a better future. The same with youth, who are very present, even though they are not heard, nor do governments want to hear them. The many pledges and negotiations seemed positive, but the commitments made so far will yet lead to a global warming of 2.7 degrees Celsius. The global South, who will definitely lose their homes above 2 degrees, and young people who fear for their future, are protesting and clamoring for more ambitious targets. Outcomes from COP26? Negotiations will continue, as also the protests. The 1.5 degree Celsius target is more and more unrealistic. Future dialogue will be more about compensation justice. But that begs the question, how do you compensate for loss of life, or home, or future? We are grateful for some very enriching encounters at COP26, especially those with indigenous peoples, and ultimately people from every corner of the planet. All in all, we are going back home energized and motivated to sustain our own commitment to climate justice. Indonesian horticultural program flourishes. In 2017, a small horticultural program was created in Umaklaran and Sadi villages in Indonesia, which has grown from the original 4 founders to 52 members working in 10 acres. The people are proud of their efforts because they are now able to send their children to school, support their families, reduce unemployment and unsafe migration, and remain in their homeland. They are convinced that their success will entice friends who have left to return to the villages. The horticultural program was the initiative of the SSPS sisters, with the support and backing of Vivat International, which has the motto, "Together for life, dignity, and human rights." It has a membership of over 25,000 priests, brothers, and sisters working in 139 countries at the grassroots level, advocating for human rights and ecological sustainability at the UN. Protesters reverse military coup in Sudan. Nationwide protests took place in cities throughout Sudan on Friday, November 19th, calling for an end to military rule and the restoration of civilian government. Since the October 25th military takeover, the weeks have been some of the most turbulent in Sudan's history. Thousands of people flocked to make their voices heard in many of the regions, despite an agreement by the head of the army, General Abdul Fattah al-Burhan, to reinstate Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok. Protesters shouted anti-military slogans criticizing the agreement and demanded the release of political detainees and investigation into the killing of protesters. Reports suggested that security forces had used tear gas against the protesters. After international condemnation and these massive protests, General al-Burhan reinstated the prime minister. And although several civilian leaders have been released, some key figures of the resistance remain in detention. Much-loved psychotherapist honored. The ministry of Father Martin Padovani, SVD, was recognized with a special dedication of a Blessed Mother statue at St. Rose School in Belmar, New Jersey on November 12th. The statue was donated by Colleen Caulfield on behalf of her parents, wishing to honor Father Padovani for his 6 decades in the priesthood and his decades of work in clinical psychology. A sought-after speaker on relationships and parenting, Father Padovani is a member of the Society of the Divine Word since 1952 and an ordained priest since 1960. Since he achieved his 60th year of priesthood during the pandemic, he wasn't able to celebrate. Ms. Caulfield said, "I'm thrilled to be able to be involved in this dedication. It is my way of personally recognizing what he has done for me, but more than that, what he has done for the many families whom he has touched." As a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of New Jersey, Father Martin has assisted countless families. He has encouraged counselors to help divorced Catholics gain insight into their first marriages, face their own faults, and avoid carrying emotional and psychological baggage into a second marriage. Recognizing the high failure rate of second marriages, Father has been an outspoken proponent of establishing education to help Catholics who are entering into marriage again. He has authored 2 books, Healing Wounded Emotions and Healing Wounded Relationships, that guide couples and marriages through an integration of faith and science. The books have been translated into 7 languages. Through the years, Father Padovani has been a supporter and friend of Wordnet Productions. We promote his books and CDs and have produced a video series by Father Padovani called Becoming Human, which highlights the topics dealt with in his books. You can access them all on our Wordnet YouTube channel. The cause continues. The fall issue of the Inter-Community Peace and Justice Center newsletter takes up the issue of the power and place of women in Catholic Church leadership. St. Paul says in Romans 16, "I commend to you our sister Phoebe, a deacon of the church in Crenchier. I ask you to receive her in the Lord. in a way worthy of God's people, and to give her any help she may need from you, for she has been the benefactor of many people, including me." So there were women deacons, at least one in the early church. And ordination rites, preserved from at least the 4th century, have the bishop calling on the Holy Spirit to pour out the grace of the diaconate on the woman being ordained, just as you granted to Phoebe the grace of your diaconate. The IPJC publication offers 6 articles on the subject. One of these, "To Change the Church, Have the Conversation," was contributed by Ellie Hidalgo and Casey Stanton, co-directors of Discerning Deacons, a project launched this year in April to engage Catholics in discernment about women and the diaconate. Part of their article outlines the phases through which the issue has been slowly but surely modified. In 1966, 1 year after Vatican Council II, U.S. bishops allowed women to serve as lectors in the liturgy, but only when a qualified man is not available, and while standing outside the sanctuary, the area now called the altar area, given that the whole church is now understood as the sanctuary. The next year, 1967, saw a step forward when Pope St. Paul VI implemented the Vatican II decree to re-establish the permanent diaconate in the Latin Church, allowing laypersons, men of course, to be ordained as deacons, but not transitional to the priesthood if married. In 1970, Paul VI allowed women to serve as lectors, even when a qualified man was present, and as cantors and communion ministers. The 1983 revision of canon law opened the door to women serving at the altar, but it took until 1994, under Pope St. John Paul II, for the provision to become official, subject to the decision of each Episcopal conference. That same year, the Pope reminded everybody in Ordinatio Sacerdotalis that only men could become priests. 22 years later, in 2016, a delegation of leading women religious asked Pope Francis to establish a commission to study the issue of a female diaconate, and he agreed. But 3 years later, no report was made public. In 2020, a second commission was set up, but so far, no results. This year, long overdue, Pope Francis has officially allowed women to be lectors and acolytes, or servers, something many American parishes have been doing for years. Rome moves slowly, but it does move. The Discerning Deacons group is vigorously mobilizing to support educational opportunities and conversations in parishes and communities to help everyone participate in synodal discernment regarding the appropriate place of women in the Church. Full steam ahead. Borderless Week number 3. The missionary sister servants of the Holy Spirit in Brazil have a bridge-building program among their schools and education centers called Borderless Week, an interdisciplinary initiative asking students, educators, and families to work on their identity as missionaries, celebrating the charism of the order. For each edition of the program, 5 countries are chosen from the different continents where the sisters work. For this 3rd edition, Australia, Mexico, Slovakia, India, and Mozambique were chosen. So in those areas, the communities are looking at what it means to be a dedicated missionary and a missionary school for today. To answer the question, we look to the person of Jesus Christ, who in his mission, in addition to revealing the love of God, breaks boundaries, says Agostinho Travancollo Jr., professor and advisor to the colleges and schools of the SSPS Brazil North province. The theme for this year's celebration was Living in Diversity and Building Respect in the World. The objective was to understand, deepen, value, and accept the culture, ethnicity, and social and religious diversity of each country as it enriches the world, with the goal of instilling interest in missionary life. A dream come true. Since the beginning of East Timor as a region, SVD missionaries have been nurturing the dream of having a permanent structure for SVD formation. Initially, formation in the Timor-Leste region began when it separated from Timor province, operating for 6 years out of a rented house in the capital city Dili and later in Batagade. Eventually, the purchase of a large piece of land near Dili was approved by the Generalate. The site is only 7 kilometers from the regional house and is even closer to the Salesian Philosophical Institute, where SVD candidates study. In May 2020, construction began and, after many ups and downs, was completed in September 2021. The complex includes a beautiful chapel, a multi-story building with 4 floors and 38 rooms, 20 for those in formation, a hall with a 100-person capacity, and other essential rooms. It was blessed and inaugurated by Reverend Father Emmanuel Lilo Taluk, CMF, Episcopal Vicar General for Social Issues, and Father Ioannes Suban Kapun, SVD, Regional Superior, on September 29th, Feast of the Archangels, St. Michael being its patron. Over 1,000 people participated in the ceremonies. As SVDs, we are short of words to express our gratitude to the benefactors and the mission office, Techni USA. We also thank Father General and the Council for approving this project, says Father Gregory Mins, SVD, Regional Secretary. Educators meet to consider papal challenge. The Global Educational Pact, launched by Pope Francis in October, calls on schools to join forces for a profound, integral, and long-term cultural transformation into a more fraternal, caring humanity. The International Union of Superiors General, UISG, held an online seminar in late October on the subject of Education 2021, Global Educational Pact, with over 400 relevant and influential people from all over the world participating. The central theme of the seminar was transformation of the school within the framework of the Global Pact for Education, with the goal of both reflection and presentation of methodologies for discovering opportunities for change based on 7 commitments offered by the Pope in his Global Compact on Education. More to come. India East, back to basics. The SSPS Sisters of India East Province are involved in organic farming. They encourage the farmers to go back to traditional farming methods, explaining their benefits for the environment and for good health. 40% of the farmers are now convinced that the advantage outweighs the disadvantage of slower productivity compared with chemically induced farming, that is. Sister Lisha Chiramatel says that she has organized about 2,000 farmers from 4 villages in the rural areas of the state of Odisha through the People Lead Development Program, PLD, in which the farmers themselves take the lead with the encouragement of the sisters and receive resources from the government. The farmers know the heartbeat of the earth and are ready to save it, while at the same time procuring income and better living facilities for themselves. They use traditional seeds instead of genetically modified ones and bring back human power, reducing migration and unemployment. A 7-member team monitors the effort, and around 20% of them help with the cost, following the principle, by the people, for the people. Besides the major crops, the families have also planted donated mango samplings and medicinal plants. According to Sister Licia, the sisters have organized feasts of different kinds to encourage the people to adopt this model of farming, and local media are assisting in the publicity. They hope it will soon spread to other areas of the state as well. Their persistent and hard work is bearing fruit, organic fruit. 3D printed homes. Would you believe? The November report from Habitat for Humanity, which always shares the good news of helping people acquire that longed-for home of their own, is now using 3D printing in the building process. This international leader envisions a world where everyone has a decent place to live and where we share one humanity. In the past 2 years, Habitat has helped over 4 million people across the U.S. alone. And because Habitat cares for the earth, our common home, it also seeks innovative and sustainable methods to achieve its goals. That's why it has started using 3D printing in the construction of houses. Way to go, Habitat, and thank you. Thank you for watching, and if you have a comment or question about any of our stories, please email us at missionminutenews@wordnet.tv. You can also post your comments below each video on YouTube. We promise to respond. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon. Share with others about the channel and the variety of programs you enjoy there. Please join us every Wednesday for our online Eucharist and Adoration and Benediction of the Blessed Sacrament, starting at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. To send us your prayer requests or to sponsor the Wednesday Eucharist, contact us by phone at 909-383-4333 or send us an email to mail@wordnet.tv. This is Mission Minute News. Until we meet again, stay safe and well, and may Jesus' love for you make you smile. Merry Christmas.